Maris Calloway began each morning with the same ritual. She unlocked the public library at 7:30, pressed her palm against the warm brass plate of the door, and whispered, "Good morning, old friend," before slipping inside. Her co-workers assumed it was a quaint eccentricity. None of them knew that the greeting steadied her quaking nerves. The library's hush felt safer than any place beyond its walls, but the sheer possibility of human conversation still unsettled her. She kept mostly to the back offices and the maze of stacks on the third floor, where the lights blinked on only when someone wandered down those narrow aisles. And almost no one ever did. Maris loved those aisles. They held corners the architects had forgotten, odd nooks where batteries in the motion sensors had died decades ago. There she could breathe without wondering whether her voice would fail if someone asked her for help. Her shyness wasn't new. It had been stitched into her since childhood in a thread she had never managed to unpick. Still, she was content among books full of other people's bravery. One drizzly Tuesday in early spring, the library's gutters rattling like loose teeth under the rain, Maris performed her rounds. She straightened call numbers, gathered abandoned bookmarks, and refolded a ladder that a teenager had left at an absurd angle. The fluorescent fixture above the 823.914s flickered once, as if winking. When she looked up, the light steadied, but something else caught her eye. A thin line of brightness escaping from behind the farthest shelf. She had never noticed a gap there before. Curiosity nudged her feet forward. She slipped between two bookcases, pulled aside an atlas that blocked further progress, and found herself facing a wall that obviously belonged to no architect's plan. It looked like poured cement, but it breathed as softly as a sleeping animal. In its center was a door, blistered paint the color of distant coastlines, an iron knob, and a single keyhole devoid of dust. Maris was certain she would have noticed such a door. For one thing, it bore a small plaque. The Vestibule of Dreams. Entry permitted to curious hearts. The letters gleamed not with brass polish, but with possibility itself. She hesitated. She was not by nature adventurous. Yet she was curious enough to gather translations of Icelandic sagas for comfort reading. So she touched the knob. It turned easily, and the door opened on a darkness so complete it felt like velvet. She stepped through before fear could write a louder opinion. Instantly, the library vanished. She stood in a round room as wide as the reading hall downstairs, though she sensed no walls, only a horizon of soft starlight. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, of floating globes drifted about her head. Each was the size of a ripe peach and made of quicksilver mist. They pulsed faintly, one color giving way to another as though each globe contained dawn and dusk in miniature. When Maris reached out, one orb drew nearer and brushed her fingertips. A vision poured into her mind. A boy with an uneven haircut, alone in a lunchroom, counting crumbs into patterns of constellations on his tray. The orb trembled with the smell of cafeteria chicken and the salt of held-back tears. The boy was both entirely unfamiliar and somehow beloved. When the images receded, Maris realized she was crying too. "Dream seeds," said a voice. "Too fragile to bloom unless someone tends them." Maris spun. A woman in charcoal robes stood where there had been emptiness a moment before. Her face looked as weathered as an old edition of a field guide. Her eyes, two warm lamps. "You're the librarian," she added. "That helps." Maris swallowed the quake in her voice. I am a librarian. But what is this place?" "The unwritten dreams of every soul who has crossed your library's threshold," said the woman. "All the hopes they dared not voice, even to themselves. They grew quiet. They came here. Doors like this exist wherever stories simmer. Yours has woken after a long slumber." Maris glanced at the swirling orbs. The air tasted of possibility, and somewhere beneath it, despair. Why me? Because you noticed, the woman said, stepping toward her. Dreams die if no one sees them, and time is short. The door is open only until the next full moon, 8 nights. After that, it seals for another generation, and everything inside fades to echoes. If these dreams vanish, many hearts will calcify in disappointment they cannot name. Maris's throat tightened. She thought of readers who drifted through the library in subdued fogs, the unemployed father who scanned classifieds, the widow who checked out travel guides but never booked a flight, the teenager who shelved manga with earphones in and eyes far away. Their hopes might be adrift in this room. What must I do? She whispered. Find the dreamers, said the woman. Guide them back to the place inside where hope lives. Each time you do, one of these orbs will blossom and fly out to rejoin its owner. I'm not exactly a people person, Maris protested. That's why you can help, said the woman, her smile small but warm. You notice the quiet corners because you live in one. When you open your voice, others will feel safe to do the same. The globes around them dimmed, as though time had nudged a reminder forward. The woman's figure silvered at the edges. I will hold the vestibule open, but I cannot leave it. The rest is yours. And you are? A caretaker, she said. Some call me Muse. The name matters less than the task. Go. The world inverted. Maris blinked and found herself back in the stacks, one hand still on a geography atlas. The library buzzed faintly. Lunch hour had begun. Patrons murmured. Above her head, a dim orb floated through the grout of the ceiling before vanishing like steam. She shivered. It was no dream. 8 days. She needed a plan. Day 1. Maris stationed herself at the information desk, a post she usually dodged. Her heart drummed, but each beat repeated the caretaker's words. Notice. Listen. At 10:46 a.m., the boy with the uneven haircut approached. Maris recognized him from the vision. He was real, maybe 12, wearing a jacket tattooed with ink pen drawings. Where are the astronomy books? He asked, voice stretched thin to sound casual. She led him upstairs. Along the way, she said, I used to map constellations at lunch when talking felt too big. He halted, surprise shining in his eyes like a new moon. I do that, he admitted. Maris selected a beginner's star guide and said, You know, our teen council meets Fridays. They're planning a telescope night. He shrugged, then nodded, hope flickering like static around him. Maris felt more than saw a pale orb shimmer into being over his shoulder before dissolving in a quiet burst of silver motes. Something inside her clicked. The process had begun. Day 2. Maris scanned the main room until she spotted Greta Aldridge, a widow who routinely checked out travel guides to places she'd postponed visiting for decades. Greta was white-haired, elegant, and alone. Today she selected a guide to the Amalfi Coast. Maris approached. Her voice wobbled once but steadied. Beautiful choice, she said. Have you been? Greta gave a wistful smile. Someday, she murmured, then added, My husband talked about lemon groves above the sea. We saved but never went. Maris inhaled. There's a travel writing workshop Tuesday nights. They share stories, but some also trade tips on finding affordable flights. She dared a softer confession. I'm shy, but I went once. It helps to have comrades. Greta's eyes misted. Could you save me a seat? I will, Maris promised. That night, while shelving returns, she felt a warm breeze, though no window was open. A new globe drifted past like a dandelion seed made of light and vanished through the stacks. Day 3. A man named Leo from the Unemployment Resource Center lingered by the job postings. His shoulders sagged. Maris offered coffee from the staff pot. They sat at the nearby table. He confessed he used to paint murals, but set the brush aside after his factory closed. Art won't pay rent, he muttered. Maris thought of bold color swirling inside one of the library's orbs. She suggested the community arts grant brochure taped unnoticed to the bulletin board and pulled up online forms. You can use our printer, she added. Leo's lips parted in a fragile smile. I stopped looking, he said. But maybe... The word maybe unfurled in him like a banner. Later, Maris watched a globe blush crimson, then ascend through the ceiling. With each encounter, confidence budded inside her own chest. Yet dozens of orbs still darkened the vestibule whenever she revisited at night, slipping through the hidden door. Each sphere seemed heavier, its glow weaker, as the moon waxed toward full. Day 4. Storm clouds caged the sky. Rain hammered the library roof so fiercely, conversation faded to gestures. Maris found the caretaker polishing a dim globe in the vestibule. Some dreams cling to sorrow, the older woman warned. They will resist you. She placed the orb in Maris's hands. The moment Maris touched it, she tasted burnt sugar and heard a cracking sound, like ice fracturing across a pond. Images coalesced. A young mother, eyes red with exhaustion, rocking a stroller by the library's picture book corner, while scrolling eviction notices on her phone. Her dream was simple, a safe room for her child's crib. Yet fear caged it. If I approach her, I might only embarrass her, Maris worried. Compassion never embarrasses, said the caretaker. But hurry. Day 5. Maris watched for the woman, Janelle, but she did not appear. Hours bled away. Closing time neared. Desperate, Maris scanned the sidewalk through rain-streaked glass and spotted the mother rushing toward the doors just before they locked at 6. Maris held them open. Inside, Janelle asked for books on early literacy, her voice brittle. Maris guided her to the children's section, heart pounding. Shelving carts stood like sentries around colorful rugs. A lullaby hummed from a distant storytime room. Library records show you once volunteered at the branch downtown, Maris ventured. Janelle nodded, surprised. Before my hours got cut? We need part-time help reshelving picture books, Maris said, improvising yet truthful. Funds existed for a page position no one had filled. It's only evenings, but there are benefits. Childcare reimbursement. You could apply. Tears pooled in Janelle's eyes, then spilled. She clutched the stroller like a life ring. I thought hope cost more than I had left, she whispered. Maris squeezed her arm gently. Sometimes hope is shelved in the wrong spot. We just have to find it. That night, the globe that held Janelle's dream erupted in a shower of citrine light so bright it illuminated the vestibule's distant edges. But many spheres remained, and now the moon was a coin almost full. Day 6. Word spread of Maris's new presence at the desk. Patrons approached. She offered listening more than advice. Sometimes a recommendation of a novel where characters survived circumstances mirrored in the patron's own. Each time someone's shoulders relaxed, she imagined a string tethering them back to a rekindled dream. But a single sphere glowed darker than the rest, almost bruised. When she touched it, cold rushed up her veins, loneliness beyond language. Images, an elderly man, Professor Norwood, retired literature scholar, sitting alone at a table near poetry. He came daily, greeting no one, reading nothing. He simply sat as if waiting for time to forget him. Maris had smiled at him often, but never spoken. This felt different. Her fear returned. A childhood stutter threatened. But she remembered the caretaker's words. Compassion never embarrasses. She approached. Professor, are you looking for a new anthology? She asked softly. His eyes, gray as weathered stone, lifted. Once I devoured verse, now the lines have fled me. May I read to you? She offered, palms damp. He hesitated, then inclined his head. She selected Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf, gentle music she loved, and began reading in a voice that trembled, steadied, then carried. People passed, glanced, and moved on. After 3 pages, Professor Norwood closed his eyes. Tears leaked down creases of his cheeks. When she finished, he said, I thought words left me. Thank you for bringing them home. She invited him to lead a weekly discussion group. You need not prepare, just share memories of the poems you loved. With a fragile laugh, he accepted. Maris felt the bruised sphere lighten. But time banged its drum. Tomorrow night the moon would be full. Day 7. No matter how many she liberated, dozens of orbs still hovered in unhappy limbo. The caretaker met her near the door. Tonight the moon leaps into fullness, she said. After the final chime of midnight, the vestibule seals. Maris tried not to panic. There are too many dreams left. You need help, dear heart, the caretaker replied. Maris thought of her co-workers, her patrons, the shy and the solitary. Could they join, even without seeing the orbs? Maybe all that mattered was the invitation. She rushed to the main reading hall and rang the ancient brass service bell. Conversations paused, faces turned. Maris's voice rose like a bird unused to flight. She told them there was a door. She knew how impossible it sounded, but dreams were at risk. She spoke of the young mother who found a job, the widow planning a trip, the boy with constellations in his pocket. She asked them to spend the evening listening to one another, seeing one another. Silence stretched. Then Greta Aldridge stepped forward. I believed her once, she said, voice clear. She helped me want lemon groves again. She faced the crowd. Let's help. The hall erupted in murmurs of willing curiosity. Tables rearranged themselves beneath bustling hands. Coffee brewed. Volunteers prepared name tags. Maris watched, astonished, as the library transformed into a makeshift sanctuary of stories. People paired off, strangers becoming confessors. Leo displayed sketches of a mural blooming in his mind. A shy teen shared a fan comic. 2 veterans spoke of nightmares and the garden they hoped to plant for therapy. Each time someone dared hope aloud, a breath of wind wafted through rafters, though no windows were open. From the corner of her eye, Maris glimpsed orbs slipping through walls, surging toward their dreamers like lanterns returning home. Silver, indigo, coral. They sped faster as more voices rose. 11:47 p.m. Energy crackled. Yet the bruised chill of despair still lingered. Maris followed it to the basement where a lone figure hunched over a mop bucket. Herbert, the night custodian. She knew little about him except his punctual greetings. His shoulders curved inward as if the earth's weight hung across them. She stepped forward. Herbert? He startled, eyes red-rimmed. Evening, Miss Calloway. Sorry, wasn't expecting anyone. Can I help? He gestured at the bucket. Only one thing I'm good for. Maris shook her head. I've watched you tighten every bolt on these shelves, polish brass plaques, rescue water-damaged books. You keep us safe. He lowered the mop. Used to keep more than buildings safe. I was a firefighter once, back stiffened. Panic attacks started after the Henderson blaze. I left. His voice cracked. Now I clean. Dreams shrank. That blaze, she whispered. My childhood home was on that street. You carried me out. Memory rushed back. a masked hero in soot-streaked gear lifting her into dawn air. Herbert's eyes widened. You were the girl clutching a stuffed dragon. I still have him, she said, smile trembling. I never forgot. Herbert sank onto a crate, tears fissuring long dormant crust. I thought none of it mattered. It mattered, she said. You saved stories, mine among them, and there are children who could use your steadiness. Our literacy outreach needs volunteers to read at fire stations. Who better than someone who fought flame with courage? He inhaled, and something straightened in his frame. A luminous orb, the darkest of them all, descended and slipped into his chest like a returned ember. His eyes shone. 11:59. Maris dashed upstairs. Patrons hugged, exchanged numbers, scribbled notes on bulletin boards. The library glowed in a way electric bulbs could not explain. She felt the pull from the hidden door and stepped through one final time. The vestibule was nearly empty. Only a lone orb hovered, pulsing faintly. Maris recognized its hue, a shy dawn rose she had long stopped naming. It was her own. She reached out. The orb landed against her palm. Visions flooded. Maris at 6, reading under covers. Maris at 13, silenced by bullies. Maris last week, believing she could never speak loud enough to matter. The dream she had abandoned was simple: to witness people finding themselves through stories, and to believe she could guide them. Tonight she had done it, yet a fragile part had not accepted the victory. She pressed the orb to her heart. It dissolved into warmth, spreading through ribs, lungs, throat, so full she laughed. The sound echoed like thousands of pages turning at once. The caretaker appeared, radiant. Well done, librarian. Will the door close forever? Maris asked. Forever is a long word, she said. It will sleep until wonder wakens it again. But you won't need it. You've learned to walk among dreams with your eyes open. Midnight tolled. The vestibule dimmed. The door nudged Maris gently. She stepped through and felt it sigh shut behind her, the plaque fading into blank wood. Epilogue. Spring eased into summer. Friday telescope nights filled the lawn with teenagers mapping stars. Greta sent postcards from Amalfi, each scented with lemon oil. Leo spray-painted a kaleidoscopic mural on the library's west wall, funded by his new arts grant. Janelle wheeled her stroller between picture book stacks wearing a staff badge. Her laugh was a lighthouse. Professor Norwood presided over poetry evenings, quoting lines long dormant. Herbert read fire safety tales aloud. Children perched around him, their faces lit by faith in heroes. And Maris? She no longer whispered only to brass plates. She greeted each patron with the knowledge that every person carried dreams delicate as spun glass, waiting for a witness. Sometimes late at night she pressed the shelf where the door had been. She felt only plaster, but beyond that something answered, like a book whose pages turn in breath rather than paper. She had become exactly what she once searched for, a keeper of unwritten dreams, a librarian of hope. And in the quiet after the lights dimmed, she realized the vestibule had never truly been behind that door. It lived wherever someone listened bravely. The library slept, but its dreams, her dreams, were awake, bright, and endlessly being written.